The latest Oxfam report reveals that while African billionaires continue to get richer, the poor are getting even poorer. The report, called A Tale of Two Continents, launched as African political and business leaders are gathering in Cape Town for their World Economic Forum. This report is very critical of the international tax system, saying it's depriving African governments of billions of dollars in lost revenue annually. Well, for more on this report, we joined from our studios in Cape Town by Oxfam's International Executive Director, Winnie Byanyima. Ms. Byanyima, thank you very much for joining us. Well, this report, in a way, some people might say is not surprising. It's confirming what we already know, because the inequality gaps and the levels of poverty in Africa have not been improving all over.
Yes, our report, A Tale of Two Continents, launched on the margins of the World Economic Forum Africa, is a caution to political and business leaders that extreme inequality in Africa is out of control. It's rising and it's trapping people, ordinary people, in poverty. It's tearing us apart. A few are running away with the benefits of growth, while others are stuck in poverty. Three men, the three richest men on our continent, now own more wealth than 50% of the African people. 650 million people at the bottom own less than just three men at the top. 3 or 4 of the most unequal countries in the world are on this continent: Swaziland, Nigeria, Namibia, and South Africa, here on this continent. And this is dangerous. The inequality is increasing the numbers of poor people. We are seeing this as the only continent that where people living in extreme poverty is increasing. It's decreasing in Asia, but it is increasing here. Millions of people are just a crop failure away from sinking into poor poverty, into deepest poverty, or just a medical bill away from falling into deep poverty.
From your research as
Africa
Oxfam,
can do it differently.
Yeah, from your research, what you've as Oxfam, what are the driving factors behind this worsening of poverty and inequality on the continent?
Several things. Our continent has huge resources, but in fact, the way the choices that our politicians make are what are resulting in a few people running away with the benefits of growth. Social spending, for example, is a great leveler of people. African countries are not doing enough to invest in the health, in the education, in the social protection of its people. Our people, investing in our people is so important. They are our gold. Our young people, our working people are more valuable than the gold and the oil and the gas that they are chasing after. So investing in our people's education and health, in social care, in social protection of these are so important. Secondly, taxing progressively. Africa is losing its much needed revenue because we have a global tax system that's rigged against us. We have tax dodging of such levels that Africa is losing more than 1/3 of its revenue that it should be plowing back into its people. 75% of the wealth of rich individuals in Africa is stashed away in tax havens untaxed. If it was taxed, it would bring in $14 billion. That's enough money to put all our children in school. That is enough money to put health care available for 4 million children who are dying before the age of 1. So we have the resources if we can block tax dodging, if we can stop harmful tax competition where one country is racing against another to reach the bottom in terms of taxation of these big companies, setting a bar and saying that we are going to hold the line here on taxation of big companies is important. It isn't happening yet. We know the solution. So we have ranked in this report the countries of Africa against their commitment to reduce inequality. We've looked at how well they spend their social spending. We've looked at how much they spend on social services. We have looked at how progressively they tax, putting the tax burden on the rich and less on the poor. And we've looked at how they empower workers, labor rights. In those three areas, you can find a lot of room to reduce inequality. And the results are very interesting.
Okay.
We find that the most unequal countries in the world.
Yeah, sorry, Ms. Byanyima, I think you've made the point, but I just wanted to end now our interview just by asking you very briefly to surmise. You are issuing this report as Oxfam, as you said, on the fringes of the World Economic Forum on Africa that's taking place in Cape Town from today. And you've made very clear what you found, and you've mentioned social spending, you've mentioned tax and labor rights as the areas where they could focus. If there was one key message you'd like the leaders who are coming together in Cape Town today to take away from this report, what would it be? Very briefly.
We have several recommendations, but for me the most important one is for Africa to invest in its people, particularly young people, in their education, in their health, in their skilling. Secondly, it would be to quickly move towards finding a coordinated way to renegotiate debt, because the debt situation has moved Africa to a point where many countries are beginning to cut their investments in people because they don't have room to borrow anymore. And then also to tackle tax dodging so that they can keep the revenues they need to invest in social and physical infrastructure.
Thank you very much. That's Ms. Winnie Byanyima from Oxfam International. She's the executive director here. Very sobering report and making very valid points.